Namaste, you're watching part 11 of the book session on Autobiography of a Yogi. Friends, we have reached almost to the end of this book, and I thank you all for being with me in this blissful journey. In the last video, we learned that Yogananda, he got a message from his guru Swami Sri Yukteswar while Yogananda was meditating that there was not enough time left for Swami Sri Yukteswar in this physical plane, and that Yogananda should come back to India and see him, that is his guru, for one last time. And so Yogananda, along with his two American disciples, they start for their journey to India, and they reach India in August 1935. And friends, when they reach India, to their surprise, a grand welcome awaited them. Hundreds of people came to see their beloved Yogananda. There was not even a single eye that was not moist. His father was extremely happy to see his son after 15 long years. And now was the time, friends, for Yogananda to meet his guru. And therefore Yogananda then he goes to his guru's ashram in Serampore, and the moment he saw Swami Sri Yukteswar, it was as if time stopped. Tears blurred Yogananda's vision, and he lovingly touched his guru's feet, expressing gratitude and love. And friends, we can well imagine the joy of Swami Sri Yukteswar on seeing Yogananda, as Yogananda was not only a disciple but like his own child. And Swami Sri Yukteswar and Yogananda, they sat together and they talked about what all had happened in these 15 years. And Yogananda told Swami Sri Yukteswar that he had been aware of the divine blessings that were with him at each and every moment, and without these blessings it would not have been possible for Yogananda to get past so many hurdles that he had faced in the West. And after meeting his guru, friends, Yogananda, along with his American disciple Mr. Wright, who was also his secretary, they headed to visit the southern parts of the country, and they visited places like Mysore, Hyderabad, Travancore and Tiruvannamalai. And friends, it was in Arunachala near Tiruvannamalai that Yogananda he met the great saint Ramana Maharishi. And we all know, friends, what a great saint Ramana Maharishi was. He always taught that one should constantly ask oneself this question, who am I? For it was only by rejecting all the other thoughts the devotee finds himself going deeper and deeper into true self. And friends, in the last years of his life, Ramana Maharishi he suffered from a fatal disease and experienced great physical pain. And when his followers they pleaded with Ramana Maharishi to cure himself, then he used to just simply say that, why are you being so attached to the body? Let it go. And where can I go? I am everywhere and in everything. Even when in acute pain, friends, Ramana Maharishi he used to maintain the same tranquil voice. And when his disciples they used to cry, seeing their guru in so much pain, then Ramana Maharishi he just used to say that it was his body that was suffering, and it was not he who was suffering, and he was aware that he was not his body. So friends, this was the meeting between Yogananda and Ramana Maharishi, and it was so blissful and gratifying at the same time. And friends, after the South India tour, Yogananda and Mr. Wright, they arrived back in Serampore in Sri Yukteswar's ashram. And Swami Sri Yukteswar, he called Yogananda in his room, and he said that the reason he called Yogananda back from the West was to tell him that his work on this earthly plane was now finished, and he handed Yogananda the responsibility to take care of the ashrams in India. And listening to this, friends, Yogananda's eyes got filled with tears. His guru will be no more in the physical plane was too hard of the truth to accept. Although Swami Sri Yukteswar he was nearing his 81st birthday and he looked healthy, strong and well, but the very fact that he would not be there in the physical body was something devastating for Yogananda to accept. And Yogananda, he did not want to think of the fact that his Guru will soon be leaving his physical body, and therefore he brought forward this idea of attending the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, hoping to meet Babaji there. Although Sri Yukteswar, he warned Yogananda that the possibility of him meeting Babaji was unlikely. But friends, Yogananda, somewhere in his heart, he knew that the Lord did not wanted him to witness the passing of his beloved Guru in front of his eyes. And so Yogananda and a few others, they reached the Kumbh Mela amidst thousands of monks and sadhus. And they met many acclaimed saints there. And Yogananda also gave discourses on Vedanta. And friends, days passed like this by meeting ascetics who were unattached to the material world, who were free from food cravings or any clothing problem, and they were never begging. They just went from one place to the other to avoid any growth of attachment by being at one place. And friends, at that time Yogananda, he got an opportunity to meet Swami Kebalananda in Vrindavan. Although Swami Kebalananda, he was nearing 90 years, but his body was radiating health and strength. And just to remind you that Swami Kebalananda, he was a direct disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya, and this gave an opportunity to Yogananda to learn more about the life of Lahiri Mahasaya through Swami Kebalananda. And Swami Kebalananda, he mentioned that Lahiri Mahasaya had appeared in his bodily form after his passing. And he also told Yogananda that he had gotten a message for him from Babaji, and that message was that Babaji would not meet Yogananda this time around, but on some other occasion. And Yogananda, he was deeply touched on hearing Babaji's message for him, although we know that Swami Sri Yukteswar, he had already told Yogananda that he would not be meeting Babaji at the Kumbh Mela this time around. And now their group reached Calcutta at Yogananda's father's home, and upon reaching there, they received a telegram stating to come to Swami Sri Yukteswar's ashram in Puri at once. And this telegram, friends, it held the truth that Yogananda had been running away from. And this truth was now to be bitterly faced. Yogananda dropped onto his knees, praying to God that his Guru's life be spared. As soon as Yogananda was about to leave his father's home, a divine voice spoke within, and it said, "Do not go to Puri tonight. Your prayer cannot be answered." And paying heed to the divine voice, Yogananda didn't leave Puri that night, but the following evening. And as Yogananda, he sat on the train, a black astral cloud covered the sky, and a vision of Swami Sri Yukteswar appeared before Yogananda. And friends, it was exactly at this time that Swami Sri Yukteswar, he entered Mahasamadhi at 7 p.m. on March 19th, 1936. And we know that Mahasamadhi is consciously leaving one's physical body, and this can only be performed by advanced yogis. And friends, when Yogananda, he reached the ashram and entered his Guru's room, he saw that his Guru's body was so full of life. He was sitting in the lotus posture. And friends, it was not a usual sight where we see a person who has left his physical form lying down on the floor. But on the contrary, Swami Sri Yukteswar, he was sitting upright in the lotus position. And as soon as the divine calling came, he relinquished, or he left his physical form. Solemn rites were performed, and as per the Hindu customs, Swamis and monks are not cremated but they are buried, as it is a belief that the bodies of monks, they are symbolically considered to have undergone cremation in the fire of wisdom at the time when they make their monastic vows. And Yogananda, friends, he felt lonely without his Guru. His heart was crying and he was completely shattered. It was now time for Yogananda to go back to the west, and he was waiting for his ship to sail back to the west, but then there were some delays in this, and so Yogananda, he had to stay in a hotel for some days. And as one day Yogananda was sitting in a hotel room, he witnessed something incredible. The glorious form of Lord Krishna appeared to him, shining over the roof of a building. And Lord Krishna waved, smiled, and then departed with a gesture of giving blessings to Yogananda. And Yogananda, he could not understand what had just really happened. And just 1 week after the vision of Lord Krishna, Yogananda, while he was meditating, he was roused by a tremendous amount of light. And what he saw, friends, was beyond belief. It was something unimaginable. It was the flesh and blood form of his Guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar. For the first time in his life, friends, Yogananda did not kneel at his Guru's feet, but instantly grabbed him in his arms. "Why did you leave me?" asked Yogananda. He could not still believe that his Guru that he was seeing was the same that Yogananda had buried a few days back. Imagine, friends, the joy of Yogananda seeing his Guru again. And Swami Sri Yukteswar, he explained to Yogananda that he has created an entirely new body from the cosmic atoms. So in truth, he came back to life, or he resurrected himself not on earth but on an astral plane. That is, although he left his physical body in the earth realm, but Swami Sri Yukteswar, he continued to exist exactly in the same form in the astral realm. And friends, this explains that we continue to exist even after death. I know this is a little complex, friends, but as we go further, we will have a better clarity. But one thing is certain, that this knowledge will help us facilitate in having a deeper understanding of the subtler realities that exist, which we cannot perceive with our physical senses. And friends, Swami Sri Yukteswar, he explained beautifully about life after death. That is what happens to us when we leave our physical bodies. Where do we go? And he explained that we human beings, we are sent on this earth to work out our earthly or the physical karma. And when we are completely free from our physical or the earthly karma, then after our death, we advance to the astral realm where we work out our astral karma. But friends, this doesn't end there. Once we are completely free from the astral karma, then we advance to the causal plane to work out our causal karma. And once we have worked out our causal karma, friends, it is at that time when we are completely free, pure in our highest form, just the way as we were created in the image of God. And it is at that time, friends, that we merge with the divine consciousness and we become one with God. So we have a long journey, friends, ahead till we finally merge with the divine and we become one with Him. And it is mentioned in the scriptures as well that our soul is encased successfully in 3 bodies: the idea or the causal body, the subtle astral body, and the third, which is the physical body. And as seen in this picture, friends, when we leave our physical body, then we leave only the physical plane, but we continue to exist in the astral and the causal plane. So when we die, it is only that we leave the physical body, that's it. But our existence is still very much there. And Swami Sri Yukteswar, he further added that God has assigned him the task to serve on the astral planet, and it is called as the illumined astral planet or Hiranyaloka. And Hiranyaloka is the most advanced plane on the astral planet, where all its dwellers, they are highly developed spiritually, and these beings are so advanced that in their last earth incarnation, through the power of meditation, they consciously left their physical bodies at the time of the divine calling, just as was done by Swami Sri Yukteswar, by Lahiri Mahasaya. And we also know that a lot of Tibetan masters also do the same. And now Yogananda was curious to learn about life on the astral and the causal plane from Swami Sri Yukteswar. And now let's understand on the life of the astral planes first. And Swami Sri Yukteswar, he explained that the inhabitants in the astral plane, they use light as a medium to travel, which is faster than electricity and radioactive energies. The astral universe is 100 times larger than the earthly cosmos. And the astral plane, friends, is beautiful, it is clean and it is pure, and everything is orderly. All the beings, they reside on different astral planes in accordance with their karmic qualification. So the good ones can travel freely, but the evil ones, they are confined to limited zones. And everything in the astral world, it is manifested by the will of its inhabitants. So whether it is manifesting children, food, drink, flowers, trees, just about anything, you have it instantly with your willpower. You want it, you have it. And now coming to an interesting part, friends, is that what form or body do the beings in the astral plane have? So friends, they look exactly the way in their last earth incarnation. That is not in their old age, but how they looked in their youthful days is the form the astral beings usually retain. Although Swami Sri Yukteswar, he chose to retain his old age form, but still he radiated the very essence of youth. And isn't it great, friends, that beings in the astral plane, they never age and they remain youthful for hundreds and thousands of years? And friends, we know that we as physical or human beings, we rely heavily on our five senses to see, hear, smell, think, feel, perceive things. But beings on the astral plane, they work only with their intuition. And friends, another noteworthy aspect is that whenever an earthly being he dies and goes to the astral plane, then there he meets a lot of his friends, his relatives, and they are not only from this lifetime but also from various other past lifetimes. So he may encounter seeing his spouse, parents, siblings, children and friends from different lifetimes. And now the question is, how does he identify them all? And the answer Swami Sri Yukteswar gave is that he identifies all of them with the power of his intuition. And now the question comes, whom to love more, spouse from his last life or the spouse from his other many lifetimes? Well, that's a tricky one, but not for the astral beings, where they learn to give divine and equal love to one and all. And friends, if you're wondering what is the average lifespan of an astral being is, so while we know that an average lifespan of an earthly being is around 70 to 80 years, the astral being, they live around 500 to 1000 years. Wow, that's a very long lifespan. Now, how does the death of an astral being happen? So Swami Sri Yukteswar, he explains this concept beautifully. So we know, friends, that on the earthly plane, it is the disappearance of breath that indicates death, meaning that when a person dies on earth, he loses consciousness of his body and he becomes then aware of his subtle body in the astral plane. And astral death, on the other hand, consists of leaving of life trance or the prana shakti as we call it, which constitutes the life of astral beings. So friends, we now have understood that when we die, we leave the physical plane and we go to the astral plane. But if there is still any earthly karma left to be served, then we reincarnate, that is, we take a rebirth and come back on earth. So in this way, we just go to the astral plane as a visitor and we just visit there and come back. And the beings who stay there permanently, that is, the beings who have no karma left to be served on earth, they are the inhabitants, they are the permanent residents of the astral plane. And friends, this is precisely the difference between being a visitor and an inhabitant of the astral plane. So friends, very interesting question that Yogananda asked Swami Sri Yukteswar was that what brings the human beings back to the earthly plane and go through this cycle of life and death again and again. And so friends, we have now understood that if we haven't worked out our karmas fully on the earthly realm, then we come back to the earthly realm. And friends, Swami Sri Yukteswar, he added further clarity on this subject and he stated that when the desire of a human being, it is severely shaken by disease, death, accident or an unforeseen circumstance and death arises, meaning that if a human being, he has some desires to accomplish, like he may be preparing for his dream job or he may be looking forward to some important event in his life, and in between that death happens, then although his physical body no longer remains, but his soul is still there and the soul is still encased in the astral and the causal plane. So it is the desire, or we can say it is the unfulfilled desires, that brings the human being back and is primarily also a reason of getting entangled in the vicious circle of life and death. And friends, it is not bad to have desires, but the desires that are rooted in ego, in temptation, in satisfying our sensory pleasures, then these desires, they give rise to attachment and we get clinged with them. And this attachment, it then conceals our vision, because of which we remain oblivious to the higher realities. And these desires then make us come back to the earth realm again and again. And we know, friends, that Lahiri Mahasaya, he had this desire from one of his past life, and it was to enjoy the beauties of a magnificent palace. And Mahavatar Babaji, he fulfilled his desire to a point that there was no unfulfilled desire left, and thus a perfect time to progress further. And it was only at that time that Babaji initiated Lahiri Mahasaya with Kriya Yoga, when he was completely free from any kinds of bondages, any kinds of desires that would otherwise cage him. And now we will have an understanding of the causal plane. And we know that the astral beings, they use the power of intuition and the power of will to understand and manifest things. But in the causal plane, the desires are fulfilled just by perception. That is, the beings in the causal plane, they can materialize anything and everything just with the power of thought. So they don't have to do anything but just think of a thing and it's there. So whether it is visiting other galaxies, Milky Ways, planets, or other starry spaces, the causal beings can effortlessly manifest their thoughts without any limitation. And many beings, they remain in the causal world for thousands of years, just as in the astral world. So friends, in this way, Swami Sri Yukteswar gave us this enlightening opportunity to all of us through Yogananda to explain us life after death. And in the 2 hours that Swami Sri Yukteswar spent with Yogananda, Swami Sri Yukteswar, he not only guided Yogananda, but he also assured Yogananda that he will always be there with him, and whenever Yogananda calls him, he shall come in his blood and flesh form yet again. And with this, Swami Sri Yukteswar, he miraculously vanished, just as the way he had come from the finer realms of Hiranyaloka. And friends, with this, Yogananda's grief and sorrow of parting with his master on his death was now transformed into peace and bliss. And friends, this chapter also casts light on the fact that we should not grieve parting with our loved ones on their death. For we know now that they have moved forward in their soul's journey and are in a much better place. I thank you all for being with me in this blissful journey. And now, closing our eyes and taking in the divine wisdom we received today through Swami Sri Yukteswar, we listen to the beautiful cosmic chant by Paramhansa Yogananda, which is Listen, Listen, Listen to My Heart Song. Namaste, and I will see you next week.
I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen,